In this session 4, we're starting to look at how we can break patterns that no longer serve us. Now that we have our purpose, how do we manifest it? This is often the most difficult part because we've hidden saboteurs in the form of bad habits and patterns that have been developed through our past experiences, which often results in a conscious or unconscious narrative coming to life that will sabotage our efforts to move towards our greatness, the narrative like we saw in the last session. Why do we sabotage our highest potential? Many people believe that we sabotage success out of fear of failure. However, we actually fear success because to be successful, we may have to leave some people behind in that journey who will not approve, be jealous maybe, or feel forced to take the journey themselves. So often it takes huge courage to stand alone in your purpose. So once you have touched success, had a taste of it, it becomes very scary to hold. It's like the child who gets all A's at school and is fearful of dropping to a B. What will people say? It comes down to fear of judgment. So we are in fact putting others before us out of fear of rejection and a strong need to belong. Out of these narratives, we start to form patterns that sabotage us. So we continue to be mediocre like everyone else. It's so much easier. We can fit in everywhere. These patterns may be obvious or not, but they're certainly standing in our way. The problem is that these patterns become a resource, and it would be almost like cutting off a limb or taking away part of us that has actually become a resource. What we are not aware of is that these patterns are clearly serving us in some way, otherwise they would not exist. The first step is to understand what the pattern is. Once we have identified this pattern, we can start to identify in what way is this pattern resourcing me, and most of all, who or what is it in service of? Once the pattern has been identified, you would need to identify the core of the belief system that this pattern emerged from. This is often formed from an old narrative that was born out of a shameful experience, maybe through a teacher, parent, or a peer telling you that you're wrong or doing something wrong, not capable, and you believed it. So how do we attempt to break these patterns? The first step would be to identify where it comes from or to whom it really belongs. For instance, if a parent has a similar pattern, you're probably carrying something on their behalf out of an unconscious loyalty that binds you to your family system. It's often difficult to identify because it's held in your unconscious. So sometimes it may even be leftover debris from a transgenerational trauma that you're carrying on behalf of your system. I have a story to tell. As a result of my father's tragic death, for many years I held anger and resentment towards him for leaving, and the perpetrators, the system, everything. This resentment sat deep inside of me and was part of a key saboteur in me moving forward. I always had an excuse why I was not doing the work that I should be doing. I was living a pretty ordinary existence, running from one course to another and avoiding actually doing the work. A few years later, I found myself standing in a room in Germany as part of my own training in family constellations with about 30 other people ready to take on this process of finally dealing with this issue of holding my father's fate so I could move on. I was doing this in order to continue to belong out of a loyalty towards him that I was unaware of. And so the gift that day came to me in the form of family and systemic constellations, and I was set free. It was actually deeply profound. All I had to do was honor his fate, bow to it, agree to his fate, and ask him to hold it for me, and I left it with him. Once I was able to do this, I felt free, and that pattern just started to break within me. Here's an exercise. I want you in your journal to identify a pattern you need to break. Choose one you feel you can tackle. Always do the one at a time. Identify the core. Write about it in your journal. You can even be creative. Draw the pattern as a before and an after picture. Put it up on your wall and make a list of the conscious things and actions you want to take in order to overcome this pattern. It might be a daily exercise that you want to take on, journaling, but whatever it is, make sure that it's a daily exercise that will help you to overcome this pattern.